Mom, you're so fancy. She hasn't yet had to experience what I've experienced repeatedly in my youth and in my adult life, that dressing like this has caused comments in an effort to shame me, such as slut. And I'm here today because I want to be a part of the change that makes it so perhaps she never has to have that feeling. I'm here as a woman who has experienced sexual assault. I'm here as a woman who believes that no matter what I wear or anyone else wears at any time, we were never asking for it. As a mom, I teach my children, my sons and my daughter, that no always means no. And that I want them to grow up in a world where they're not afraid of sexual violence. And the main thing from raising a daughter in this society, that I'm standing here wanting to address, that there's an irony, a great irony, in hypersexualizing young women and then shaming them for expressing their sexuality.
I can remember being called a slut. You know, as soon as I started developing breasts, I was called a slut. I've been called a slut for being independent. I've been called a slut for making my own choices, being assertive, being sexy, being sexy. Voluptuous, being too fat. I've been called a fat slut. I've been called a slut for being too loud. I've been called a slut for being too loud during sex. I've been called a slut for having sex. I've been called a slut for enjoying sex. And I've been called a slut for enjoying talking about having sex. Women have called me a slut, and it's unfortunately a word that women are taught to use to shame each other. And it's a word that really has been used in so many contexts, but in most times that it's been used against me, it's been used to shame me. I've been called a slut for being completely covered or dressed like this. I've been called a slut. And to be honest, I'm not ashamed of any of these aspects of myself. I'm proud to be independent. I'm proud to be strong and assertive. I'm proud to be voluptuous. I have sex. I enjoy sex. I enjoy talking about enjoying having sex. So you can call me a slut if you want to, but you can never use that word as an excuse to violate me.
Often men are rewarded for being sluts and called ladies men, players, womenizers, or simply the man, while women are called sluts when they demonstrate the same behavior. Gay men too suffer the slut stigma for leading promiscuous lifestyles even when they do so responsibly. I'm here today as part of this slut revolution to say I haven't had enough of this double standard. I was drawn to organize this walk because I strongly believe that no person, regardless of their gender, race, sexuality, should be harmed based on the way they present themselves or for any other reason. I have a couple of questions to ask you guys. And girls, of course. Sorry that I just, that's more gender neutral. Sorry. I'm nervous. Does a woman deserve to be raped because she is wearing a miniskirt? No! Does a man deserve to be brutally beaten because he's dressed in a manner that's non-traditional to gender norms? No! Does a transgendered person deserve to be murdered because they're being themselves? No! Hell no!
I know that there's been a lot of talk about reclaiming words surrounding this event, as well as who is being left out of this movement. And I do think that some really valid points were raised, some really valid concerns were raised. But I also think that while words are important, this movement is not just about words. It's about putting an end to victim blaming, and it's about challenging a society where impunity reigns supreme. and it's about challenging a culture that glorifies and justifies shaming and violence that we experience. I hope that this walk is going to be one of 1,000 small acts that add up to fighting back and to working towards a society where everyone can feel safe and confident in the streets and the bathrooms. I may not get shit for the way that I dress, but as a sex worker and as a transgendered person, I get told all the time that I am responsible for the violence I experience. That I am something to be gawked at and that I'm totally disposable. I would also like to call on our communities to keep working to be more inclusive of those of us who are engaging in sex work, whether that's by choice or by necessity, especially since we bear the brunt of slut shaming and transphobia as we continually struggle to combat negative ideas about us. Thank you.